Three firm knocks on the door early one Saturday morning broke the silence of my small apartment. I stepped out, still sleepy, my mind half awake from the long work week. Standing before me was a figure so familiar that my whole body froze for a second. It was Lily, the woman I once called my wife, who had disappeared from my life without explanation more than 2 years ago. But that wasn't what shocked me the most. What struck me like lightning was the baby she was holding in her arms. A newborn baby, its face unfamiliar, its eyes wide open, staring at me in bewilderment. Liam, I need to talk to you, Lily blurted out, her voice shaking, her eyes red as if she had been crying all night. I didn't know how to respond, so I just stood there, my hands gripping the edge of the door to steady myself. I felt every cell in my body burn as 1,000 questions raced through my head. Why was she standing here? Who was this child? And hell, why did she dare come back after ruining my life? Liam, let me in. I need to explain, she continued, her eyes pleading as if I was the only one who could save her. But in that moment, the anger that had been simmering inside me rose. I gritted my teeth, forcing myself to keep my voice calm, but I didn't let her take a step into the house. Explain here, I said, my voice cold. Lily swallowed, her lips trembling as she struggled for words. The baby is mine, but it needs you. I made a big mistake, and I want to make it right. Her words were like a knife stabbing into my chest, but instead of pain, I felt a surge of anger. She called it a mistake. She left me, lied to me, and now came back with a child I didn't know, begging for forgiveness. The world seemed to stop in that moment. Old memories rushed back. Fragments of my previous life that I had so stubbornly held onto were now crushed by her presence. So you came back to make me your backup plan? I asked, my eyes filled with contempt. Lily was silent, just looking at me with teary eyes, but I saw no regret in them, only the despair of someone who had run out of options, and I realized she wasn't here for me, not for love, but just because she needed a way out. Lily stood there, her hand clasped tightly around the baby, as if afraid I would reject her immediately. Her eyes wavered between pleading and a familiar pride that I had loved, but now felt foreign to me. Liam, I know I did wrong, she began, her voice shaking but trying to stay calm. But I have no one else. I need you. I need you. Child? I emphasized the word, as if it were an insult. Whose child, Lily? Don't tell me it's ours, because we both know that can't be. She bowed her head, as if she had taken another blow to her pride. No, it's not yours, she admitted, her voice barely a whisper, but each word ringing clear as an alarm bell in my head. But I can't do this alone. I've thought a lot, and I know you're the only one who can help me. You're the only one I trust. I laughed, a cold, bitter laugh. Trust? Did you trust me when you lied to me? When you left without an explanation? Don't talk to me about trust, Lily, because it died with our marriage long ago. She burst into tears, tears streaming down the face that I once saw as everything. But now, I saw only a stranger, a traitor trying to take advantage of the last kindness I had. Liam, I know I was wrong, but I really thought we could start over. I've lost so much, but you're still here. You're still the one I love. Her words were like a slap in the face. Love? I snapped. You love me, yet you leave to find someone else who can give you what I can't? You love me, yet you take a child that isn't mine and think I'll take you back? Lily, are you even listening to what you're saying? She stood still, my words cutting deep into her, but not as deep as the wound she had left in me. I looked at the baby in her arms. It was so small, so innocent, so completely innocent. I didn't hate the child. I just couldn't accept it as a symbol of the betrayal and lies Lily had sown in my life. Lily, I don't know what you were thinking when you decided to come back here, I said, trying to keep my voice as calm as possible. But I'm not your escape. I lost everything when you left. I had to rebuild my life from the rubble you left behind. And now you expect me to forget it all and come back like nothing happened? I don't expect you to forget, she sobbed. I just expect you to give me a chance to make it right. Think of the baby. He has no fault in this. The baby wasn't at fault. That was true. But I couldn't let myself be dragged back into the life I'd fought to escape. I don't owe you or this baby anything, I replied, my voice firmer. Lily, you made your choice, and now you have to live with the consequences. You're no longer a part of my life, and neither is this baby. Lily's eyes changed. The pleading in her eyes turned to anger and frustration. You're so selfish, she said, her voice bitter. I thought you were a better man than that. I thought you wouldn't abandon an innocent child. I'm not selfish, Lily, I replied. I just refuse to be used again. You didn't come here for love or repentance. You came here because you needed someone to fix your mistakes. I'm not that person. With nothing more to say, I slammed the door in her face, ignoring the knocking and sobbing from outside. For the first time in years, I felt a strange sense of relief. I had said the rejection I had feared, and now I had nothing to lose. Standing behind the closed door, I took a deep breath. Outside, Lily continued to knock, shouting her last words to try to get me to come back. But I knew my life had turned to another page, and she no longer had a place in it. If anyone asked me about my first days with Lily, I will tell you about a fairy tale. We met at a small cafe by the sea, where the sunlight poured through the large windows, illuminating her shiny brown hair. From that moment, I knew I'd found my soulmate. Lily was not only beautiful, but also had a strange attraction, a gentle confidence that made me unable to take my eyes off her. And when she smiled, my whole world seemed to light up. We fell in love quickly and intensely. Weekends were filled with laughter as we walked along the beach together, sharing big dreams about the future. Lily often said she wanted a big family, 2, maybe even 3 kids, all living in a small house with a shady garden. I remember her taking my hand, her eyes sparkling. Liam, you'll be the best dad. I can see it in the way you take care of everything. Those words made me feel like I was good enough, worthy enough to build a future with her. After we got married, we quickly set about making plans, buying a small house, starting to pick paint colors for the nursery, and even brainstorming some names for our future children. Lily spent hours researching baby gear online, then eagerly showed me what she found. What do you think about this stroller? Or this crib? We're going to want the best for our baby, she said, her voice full of excitement. I was also happy to see the joy in her eyes. Life was perfect then, or so I thought. But what I didn't know was that beneath that peaceful surface, a storm was brewing, waiting to wipe out everything we had built together. The storm began with the small dark clouds, the months of trying to conceive without success. At first I tried to reassure myself that it would take time, but then, after a few months, we both decided to see a doctor for a checkup. The news from that visit hit me hard. I was the one with the problem. Your sperm count is very low, the doctor said, as if reading a routine report. But to me, those words sounded like a death knell for my dream of a family. I felt like I had failed, not just Lily, but myself. She deserved the perfect husband, someone who could give her everything she wanted. But I wasn't that man. In the days after the appointment, I was caught in a spiral of negative emotions. I began blaming myself, avoiding serious conversations with Lily. I was afraid to see the disappointment in her eyes, even when she tried to be strong. We'll be okay, Liam, Lily said one night, when I couldn't hide my sadness. I just need you. As long as we have each other, nothing else matters. But even as she said it, I could sense a subtle change in her voice and her eyes, something I couldn't quite place, but it made me uneasy. I thought our love could overcome any challenge, but looking back, I realized that was the first time Lily started to pull away from me. Not physically, but mentally. After that fateful appointment, things began to change, slowly, but unmistakably. Lily was no longer as enthusiastic about talking about the future as she had been. Talks about baby names and nursery decorations gradually disappeared from our conversations. Instead, there were long stretches of awkward silence, as if each of us were living in our own world. I tried my best to keep things casual. I suggested other options: artificial insemination, adoption, even looking into surrogacy. But each time I mentioned it, Lily would quickly dismiss it. We don't have to do anything, Liam. she said, giving me a weak smile. Just having you here is enough. But she sounded more like she was trying to convince herself than me. I began to notice small but increasingly obvious changes. Lily, who used to spend hours with me planning our future, now spent most of her time on her phone or out and about, alone. She often said she needed space to think. What used to be a peaceful dinner became just the two of us eating in silence. When I tried to engage her in conversation, Lily would respond with apathetic responses or not at all. I felt like I was trying to grasp sand, and the tighter I held it, the more it slipped through my fingers. One day, when I came home from work, I found Lily sitting on the sofa, her eyes glued to her phone screen. She didn't notice me, and I could see the tension on her face. When I asked her what she was doing, Lily just smiled awkwardly, hiding her phone behind her back like a child caught doing something wrong. "Nothing," she said, and quickly changed the subject. Slowly, I began to sense that something was wrong, but I dared not face it. I told myself that all couples have difficult times, that Lily just needed time to adjust to the changes in life. But my heart knew that the distance between us was growing. Then one night, Lily made an unexpected request. "I want to go on a trip with my friends," she said, her eyes avoiding mine. "Just for a week, so I can think and relax." I had no reason to refuse. She'd gone out with friends a few times before, and I'd always trusted her. But this time, an inexplicable feeling of unease welled up inside me. "You think I need some time alone, don't you?" Lily asked, forcing a smile to ease my unease. I nodded, forcing myself to believe that this was just a harmless trip. I even helped her pack and walked her to the airport, kissing her goodbye with a strange feeling that I was doing the right thing. But as Lily walked through security, turning back to wave one last time, I noticed something different in her eyes, as if she were saying goodbye forever. When her flight landed, I waited for a text or a call to let me know she had arrived safely, but nothing came. I tried to convince myself that she was just jet-lagged, but as a day passed, then too, my worry turned to panic. Her phone went unanswered, and my texts went unanswered. Finally, I called her friends to ask, only to find out something that made my heart stop. None of them were with the Lily. They didn't even know she had planned to leave. That was the moment everything fell apart. Lily wasn't traveling. She was gone, taking with her all the dreams, plans, and beliefs we had shared. And I, the husband who had always believed in her and loved her unconditionally, was left in a mess that I didn't know how to pick up. The first few days after Lily disappeared were a nightmare I never thought I would experience. I sat in the living room, staring at my phone, hoping it would vibrate, signaling a text or a call from her, but all I got was dead silence. I called dozens of times, leaving long messages that ranged from gentle inquiries to desperate pleas, but nothing changed. Her phone rang and rang, as if she were deliberately ignoring me. At first, I convinced myself that maybe she had lost her phone, or maybe she'd gotten so caught up in her trip that she forgot to check her messages. But my excuses for Lily gradually lost their persuasive power as time went on. By the third day, I couldn't keep my cool anymore. I called her family, hoping they could help me find Lily, but they all came up empty. Her mother, who spoke to her daughter regularly, was also surprised when I told her that Lily hadn't contacted me. "She'll call back, Liam," she said over the phone, her voice worried but reassuring. "It's probably just a little misunderstanding, don't worry." But I knew this wasn't a misunderstanding. This was something bigger, a secret I couldn't touch. I started calling Lily's closest friends, the ones she'd said would be coming along on the trip. When one of them answered, the truth hit me like a bucket of cold water. "What trip, Liam?" her friend asked, sounding surprised. "I don't know where Lily is going. We don't have any plans." I felt like the world was crumbling beneath my feet. Not only did Lily leave, but she blatantly lied about why. But why? Why did she have to make up such a story, then leave me without an explanation? Why couldn't she just tell me straight up if there was anything going on between us? I searched every corner of the house, looking for a hint, a message she might have left. But everything was intact, except for her wardrobe. Some things were gone, clothes, suitcases, and a few personal items. The feeling of abandonment was not just heartbreaking, but also confusing and humiliating. Lily had not just left me, she had meticulously planned her disappearance. as if I no longer mattered. The next night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to piece together what had happened. I remembered all the times Lily had been distant, the times she refused to talk about her feelings. I wondered, were these signs I had missed? Was I blinded, believing that everything was okay when Lily had long since left me? This uncertainty not only hurt me, but it gnawed at me every day. The more I tried to understand, the less I found an answer. Instead, I felt a great emptiness in my heart, where love and trust once existed. Lily, who I once thought was my soulmate, was now just a mystery that left me confused and miserable. As the days passed, I realized that Lily's disappearance was more than just an impulsive act. She had planned it, and the more I thought about it, the angrier and more helpless I felt. The woman who had said she loved me, who had painted dreams of a future with me, had now coldly left without caring about what she left behind. I began searching for any clues that might help me understand what was happening. I searched through emails, text messages, social media logs, but nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Our bank accounts were intact, with no suspicious transactions. It was as if Lily had simply disappeared from my life without a trace. I even went to the police, even though I knew there wasn't much they could do. "She's not missing," the officer said, his tone professional but unsympathetic. "Adults have the right to leave without notice." Those words hit me like a bucket of cold water. She had the right to leave, but what about me? Didn't I have the right to know why? Every day, I felt like I was being engulfed by a tsunami of emotions. There were moments when I was so angry that I wanted to destroy everything around me, my desk, my phone, even our wedding photos hanging on the wall. But there were also times when I sat huddled on the sofa, helpless and exhausted, tears silently falling as I thought of Lily, of the happy moments we had shared. Friends and family began to worry as I became increasingly depressed. "Liam, you have to accept the truth," a close friend said. "Maybe Lily has decided to leave you. Maybe she doesn't want to come back." But how could I accept that? How could I accept that the woman I thought meant everything to me could just disappear without explanation? I had devoted 4 years of my life to her, and now I was left with a jumble of unanswered questions. One evening, while trying to find some distraction, I remembered that Lily had a close friend from college whom I hadn't contacted. I called her, not really expecting an answer, but when she picked up, her first words froze me. "Liam, I don't think I should tell you this, but I think you need to know," she said, her voice hesitant. "Liam's met someone new. She doesn't know I'm calling you, but I can't stand to see you looking for her." Those words exploded like a bomb in my head. Lily wasn't just leaving. She was leaving for someone else. In that moment, every emotion I felt exploded into a rage. Everything I had believed in, all the beautiful memories I had of her, was now nothing but a blatant betrayal. I hung up without another word, my hands shaking as I put the phone down. My heart was pounding, not with pain, but with anger. I began to recall Lily's unusual behavior over the past few months. The way she hid her phone, the way she lied about the trip, it all clicked. She had been lying to me all along, and the trip had been her way of avoiding the truth. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the dark, thinking about everything that had happened. Lily hadn't just abandoned me, she'd chosen to destroy me in the most cruel way possible. But amid the anger and grief, I also realized one thing. She was gone, and I would never let her drag me down again. I decided to start over, even though it meant giving up everything that had to do with her. But what I didn't know was that my recovery journey was just beginning, and that Lily wasn't completely gone from my life forever. After the truth about Lily's betrayal came to light, I felt like I was drowning in a storm of mixed emotions. It was a mix of anger, grief, and utter emptiness. But one thing I knew for sure, I couldn't continue living like this. Lily had ruined everything, but I wouldn't let her take my future away from me. From there, I began my journey to recovery. At first, it was hard. I still had old habits that kept me thinking about Lily. Every morning, I would wake up and look over at the side of my bed, only to realize that the void would never be filled. I would find little things she had left behind, a coat hanging by the door, a book on the shelf, as painful reminders of her presence in my life. Once, when I opened the cupboard to get a glass, I saw a cup she had used. I stood there holding the cup and cried like a child. But then I realized that if I let these memories haunt me, I would never be able to escape Lily's ghost. I decided to do something I never thought I would do. I cleaned out everything that related to her. I gathered up all of Lily's remaining belongings, from clothes to small mementos, and put them in boxes. It wasn't easy, but it felt like a symbolic act. I was removing Lily from my living space and from my mind. In the days that followed, I tried to find ways to fill the void left by Lily. I started to return to the hobbies I'd enjoyed before meeting her. I signed up for a gym class near my house, not only to stay healthy, but also to relieve my frustration. The first few workouts were difficult. My body was tired and my mind was constantly distracted. But gradually, I began to feel stronger, not only physically, but also mentally. In addition to the gym, I also started trying new things. I signed up for a cooking class, something Lily had always said I didn't have the patience for. Surprisingly, I actually enjoyed it. Cooking a nice meal for myself was not only a way to take care of myself, but also a reminder that I didn't need anyone else to live well. But things don't always go smoothly. There are days when I wake up feeling discouraged, as if all my efforts have been for nothing. On those days, memories of Lily come flooding back, reminding me of what I've lost. I miss the times we laughed together, the nights we spent lying together talking about the future, and then I wonder, how could someone who said he loved me betray me so cruelly? I decided to seek help. I never thought I would need a therapist, but I knew I couldn't do this alone. The first few sessions were difficult. I had to say things I'd been holding inside for months, but over time, I realized that sharing my feelings with someone who wouldn't judge me was an important step toward healing. My therapist helped me understand that Lily's betrayal wasn't my fault, and that my worth didn't depend on her actions. During this process, I also began to rebuild the social connections I had neglected. I met old friends who had always been there for me, but who I'd neglected because I was spending so much time with Lily. Some even organized small get-togethers to get me out of the house and help me forget my pain. I began to feel reconnected to the world, something I'd lost while living with Lily. My journey to recovery was not a straight line, but a slow, difficult one. But step by step, I felt a freedom I hadn't felt in years, and more importantly, I began to see a future without Lily, a future where I could live for myself. As time passed, little by little, I felt my life begin to take on color again. The dark days seemed to be fewer, replaced by moments when I truly enjoyed the freedom I'd regained. It wasn't a perfect life, but it was mine, no longer weighed down by betrayal and old memories. And I knew that in order to move forward, I needed to turn my pain into motivation. I started spending more time at work. It was a way to keep myself busy, but also a chance to prove that I was still valuable, that I could achieve great things without Lily. I volunteered to take on more difficult projects, sometimes working late into the night, but I didn't feel exhausted. On the contrary, I felt in control of my life. One day, my boss called me into his office and told me I was getting a promotion. "You've worked hard and you really deserve it," he said. It was the first time in months that I felt proud of myself, but it wasn't all about work. I decided to try things I'd never thought of before, like joining a local book club. I'd always thought I didn't have time to read, but now books became a refuge where I could temporarily forget about reality. During those book discussions, I also met new people with different stories and lives. Gradually, I realized that the world out there was much bigger than I'd thought when I was with Lily. A big turning point came when I decided to travel alone, something I had never done before. Before meeting Lily, I had always dreamed of exploring new lands, but that dream had been forgotten during the years we had been together. Now I wanted to do it on my own, for no one but myself. I chose a simple destination, a small coastal village with cobblestone streets and a peaceful atmosphere. That trip changed everything. As I stood on the beach, watching the sun sink below the horizon, I felt a strange sensation, as if a weight had finally been lifted from my shoulders. I no longer felt like a victim of betrayal or failure because my marriage had failed. I was just me, a man who had been hurt but had stood strong and kept going. Surprisingly, I also began to see the lessons my marriage to Lily had taught me. I no longer held her in the same regard. Instead, I looked at the past as part of a journey that helped me grow. Lily taught me the value of honesty and self-respect. not through the way she treated me, but through what I learned from the pain she caused. In addition to learning from the past, I also began to invest in the future. I saved up to buy a small house, a place that was completely mine, with no memories of Lily attached to it. I decorated it the way I wanted, with paintings I chose, furniture I loved. This was my own space where I could start a new chapter in my life. One day, while I was rearranging the books on the shelf, I found an old photo of me and Lily. Instead of feeling the pain as before, I simply put it in a memory box. Not to keep Lily, but to remind myself of how far I had come since she left. Although the journey of recovery has not been easy, it has helped me become a better version of myself, stronger, more independent, and more appreciative of what I have. I no longer live in Lily's shadow or be controlled by the damage she caused. Instead, I live for myself, enjoy every moment, and am ready to face whatever life brings. The journey was not only a recovery, but also a rebirth, finding joy in life again without relying on anyone else. I knew that I was completely ready to close the past and step into a completely new future, with limitless opportunities and possibilities. One quiet Saturday morning, I was sitting on the sofa with a cup of coffee, enjoying the peaceful atmosphere in the small apartment that I had arranged myself. Since Lily left, my weekends had always been like this, gentle, simple, but full of meaning. It was a time for me to temporarily put aside all my worries and live only for myself. However, a sudden knock on the door shattered that peaceful atmosphere, bringing with it a storm that I never expected. I opened the door, and before me stood Lily, the woman I loved more than life itself, but who had ruined my life. But what really shocked me was not her presence, but the baby in her arms, a newborn baby, so small, sleeping soundly with an innocent and naive face. I stood there frozen, feeling the air around me suddenly become suffocating. "Liam," Lily said, her voice shaking but determined. "I need to talk to you. Please, let me in." I didn't move. The painful memories of the day she left me came flooding back like a tsunami. The last time I saw her, she had turned and walked away, leaving me with unanswered questions. And now she was at my doorstep, carrying a child, as if things could go back to the way they were. I tried to calm myself, taking a deep breath. "No," I said, my voice cold. "If you have something to say it here." Lily pursed her lips, her gaze dropping to the baby in her arms, as if searching for courage. "Okay," she said, her voice almost choked. "I was wrong. So wrong. I know I don't deserve it, but I have nowhere else to go. I need you, Liam. The baby needs you, too." I raised an eyebrow, stifling a bitter laugh. "Child? Whose child is this, Lily?" "It certainly isn't mine." She bowed her head, avoiding my gaze. "No, it's not yours," she admitted. "But that doesn't matter. I realized my mistake. I left thinking I could find something better, but I was wrong. Completely wrong. You're the only one I can trust." Her words were like salt in an old wound. "You call leaving me for someone else a mistake? And now you come back here, with a child, and expect me to forgive you like nothing happened?" I asked, my voice a mix of anger and sarcasm. Lily started to cry, tears streaming down what I thought was the most beautiful face in the world. "Liam, I don't know how to make you understand. I lost everything, and I just want to make it right. Think about the baby. It's not his fault." I looked at Lily and then at the child in her arms. Yes, it was not her fault, but I could not and would not let myself be dragged back into the cycle of misery Lily had created. "I don't owe you anything," I said, my voice firm. "You made your choice, and now you have to live with the consequences." Lily's eyes changed. The pleading in her eyes gave way to a flash of anger. I knew she wasn't here because she loved me, but because she needed a way out, and that only made me more determined. I wouldn't let myself be fooled again. Lily stood there, her eyes turning from pleading to anger, as I refused to let her in. She squeezed the baby in her arms, as if that would soften me. But I was no longer the man I had been 2 years ago, the man who had begged her not to leave me, the man who had tried to hold on to a relationship that I now knew was long dead. "Do you think you're the only one who's hurt, Liam?" she said suddenly, her voice going from weak to sharp. You don't understand what I've been through. I left you not because I wanted to, but because I had no other choice. Her words stunned me. No other choice? I repeated, my voice full of sarcasm. Your choice was to lie to me, betray me, and run off with someone else. Don't tell me you didn't have a choice. Lily bit her lip, trying to keep her composure. Liam, you don't understand. I've always wanted children. It's the only thing I've ever wanted in life. But when the doctors told me you couldn't be a father, it felt like my whole world was falling apart. I tried to accept it, but it just felt more and more suffocating. I loved you, but it wasn't enough to fill that void. I turned to someone else, because I thought it was the only way I could get what I wanted. I stood still, listening to her every word. Each word was like a knife stabbing into my chest, but also a confirmation that I was right to let her go. Lily didn't love me, at least not in the way I thought. To her, I was just a means to an end. And when I was no longer suitable, she was ready to replace me. And now what? I asked, my voice coldly calm. Where is that man? Why isn't he standing here with you? Lily bowed her head, her eyes filled with shame. He left as soon as he found out I was pregnant, she admitted. He didn't want the responsibility of the baby. And when the baby was born, I realized I'd made a huge mistake. I'd lost you. I'd lost everything. And now I just want a chance to make it right. I laughed, not out of amusement, but out of disbelief at her brazenness. So you left me to have someone else's baby, and when he left you, you came back here, thinking I would pick you up and the baby like nothing happened? Do you hear how stupid that is, Lily? Lily started to cry, tears falling down, but this time I felt nothing. She could cry, she could say she was sorry, but all those words were just empty. I used to love her with all my heart, used to try my best to keep our relationship, but now I understand that my love was never enough for her. Can't you forgive, Liam? She sobbed. Think of the baby. It's not his fault. He needs a father, and you're the only one I can trust. Yes, the baby is not at fault, I replied, my voice still cold. But neither am I. You made your own choice, Lily. You decided to leave me to pursue your dream, and now you have to live with the consequences. I have nothing more to say to you. Lily looked at me, her eyes filled with disappointment and anger. You're selfish, Liam. You only think about yourself. If I wanted to, I could have taken half of everything you had when I left. But I didn't, because I thought you deserved better. And now you refuse to help me? I looked straight at her, unblinking. You think I should be grateful that you didn't take everything from me? You're wrong, Lily. I don't owe you anything. Not now, and not ever. I slammed the door in her face, leaving the crying and pounding behind. My heart was calmer than ever. Lily was back, bringing with her all the worst of the past. But this time, I wouldn't let her control my life anymore. I had chosen my path, and it was a path without her. I stood with my back against the slammed door, listening to Lily's frantic knocking outside. She was screaming, her voice a mixture of anger and desperation. But all I felt was a strange calm, as if a burden had finally been lifted. After years of being haunted by the pain she had caused, I had made the decision I knew was the right one. There was no more room for Lily in my life. Lily didn't give up easily, though. She kept knocking, shouting, to make me listen. Liam, you're going to regret this, she shouted, her voice echoing through the wooden door. You can't leave me and the baby like this. You're the only one I can rely on. But I didn't answer. I just stood there, silent, listening to her words drift by like a breeze. Finally, when she realized that I wasn't going to open the door, Lily left. I looked through the peephole and saw her carrying the baby, walking slowly down the stairs. Her face was wet with tears, but I didn't feel regret. Instead, I felt relief. She had her chance, and she had ruined it with her own hands. In the days that followed, Lily continued to try to contact me. She texted, called, even asked her friends and family to pressure me. Her mother called, her voice full of concern, trying to convince me to change my mind. Liam, I know she's wrong, she said, but she's really struggling. The baby needs a father. Please reconsider, okay? But I wouldn't budge. I politely declined, insisting that I couldn't go back to a dead relationship, much less take responsibility for a child that wasn't mine. Even some of Lily's old friends texted me, trying to guilt trip me. Liam, she suffered enough. One mutual friend wrote, "You may not forgive her, but at least think about the child. He didn't deserve to be abandoned." But I knew full well that this wasn't my responsibility. I couldn't sacrifice my life just to make up for Lily's mistakes. As time passed, the calls and texts became less frequent. Lily seemed to realize that I would never change my mind. I heard from a mutual friend that she had moved back in with her parents, trying to cope with the difficulties of life. The man she had left me for had disappeared, leaving her to deal with the consequences alone. But that was no longer my problem. For the first time in years, I felt completely free. I began to enjoy the life I had rebuilt. My work was going well, my friends were supportive, and I learned to love myself. I occasionally thought about Lily and what she had done, but I no longer felt resentment or pain. Instead, I felt relief knowing that I had overcome my challenges and would not let her drag me down again. One afternoon, while cleaning the apartment, I found an old photograph of us, a beautiful moment from our happier days. I looked at it for a while, then put it in a box, along with all the memories of Lily. It was not an act of anger or hatred, but the closing of an old chapter in my life. My ultimate victory was not in rejecting Lily or asserting my position. The real victory was in finding myself again. I learned that my self-worth does not depend on the acceptance or love of others. I am no longer a man who is afraid of losing someone, but a man who is willing to live for himself, ready to face any challenge in the future. Lily left, taking with her everything that had been a part of my life. But that didn't matter, because in the end, I didn't need Lily to feel whole. I had risen from the rubble stronger than ever, and I knew that this time, no one could take my happiness away from me. When Lily left a second time, this time not by choice, but because I forced her to, I realized it was more than just an act of rejection. It was a release, for her, and, more importantly, for me. I had been trapped in a spiral of memories, of pain and betrayal, but the moment the door closed between us, I knew I had closed the old chapter and entered a whole new one. In the days that followed, Lily no longer overshadowed my life. The quiet mornings were truly mine now. I no longer stared at my phone, waiting for a text or a call that would bring her back. I no longer struggled with unanswered questions. It was all over. Lily may have taken her bad choices with her, but I also took the lessons she had unwittingly taught me. I realized that to truly let go of the past, I needed to focus on the present and the future. I began to invest more in the things that gave meaning to my life. I became more involved in community activities, volunteering at a local charity where I felt like I could contribute to doing something good for others. Those afternoons not only kept me busy, but also filled my heart with simple joys, something I thought I had lost. I also decided to try something I had always avoided: writing. I had never thought I had the ability to do this, but the emotions and experiences throughout the difficult journey urged me to pick up the pen. I wrote about what I had been through, not to blame or accuse Lily, but to heal myself. Each word became therapy, each page a small step toward finding my true self. My life gradually stabilized, and I realized that I had changed. I was no longer a man who lived for the approval of others, especially Lily. I did not need anyone to confirm my worth. I created that value for myself by living a life true to myself, with my own principles and goals. But the most amazing thing is, I started to feel grateful for what happened. Without Lily and her betrayal, I would never have had the chance to learn to stand up for myself, to learn to appreciate myself. She taught me, unintentionally, that love is not sacrificing everything for others and forgetting about yourself. Sometimes, the greatest love is loving yourself enough to walk away from people who don't truly appreciate you. One day, I got a text message from an unknown number. It was Lily. She didn't apologize or ask for anything, just a short message. "I hope you're happy. I'm really sorry for what happened." I looked at the message, but didn't reply. I didn't feel angry or hurt. I just didn't need to say anything more. It was over. In the weeks that followed, I heard that Lily was still trying to figure out her life. Even though I no longer cared about her, I still hoped that she could find her own way. But that no longer affected me. I had closed that chapter, and now I was writing my own story. Today, as I sit here writing my story, I can't help but smile. What I thought was the greatest tragedy of my life turned out to be a turning point in my growth. I learned how to deal with pain, how to overcome betrayal, and how to rebuild my life from the rubble. I found strength I didn't know I had, and for that I am grateful. Freedom is not about rejecting someone or forgetting what happened. Freedom is accepting that it is over, that you can't change the past, but you can choose how to live in the future. And most importantly, freedom is knowing that you deserve to be happy, no matter who told you not to. Looking back, I don't blame Lily. She was just a part of my journey, someone who came along, hurt me, but also helped me find myself. I hope she finds the peace she's looking for too. And me? I found it. And the best part is, this peace came from no one else but myself. I survived the storm, and now I stand under the clear blue sky, enjoying the warm sunshine of my new life. I have freed myself from the past, and I know that whatever the future brings, I will be ready to meet it with a strong heart and full of hope.